Going on, everybody? It's PapaStones coming back with another video. So today, after the announcement of the suspensions of Jango Fett, Triple Dark Raid, and DJ, we're going to be looking at the new up-and-comers for the best decks, I think, going forward into PQ season, new meta, whatever it may be. So yeah, I got a handful of decks here for you to look out for that I think are going to be relevant. Feel free to give any of them a try. Let me know what you think of the list, but we're going to jump right into this. We have Cad Bane Tarkentown. So this is my personal list I've been running. It's performed pretty well. Granted, I'm not sure if Electromagnetic Pulse has to stay in. Mostly this was a Jango card. They might end up hitting the sideboards in place of something else. Who knows? But other than that, I mean, you also maybe don't need 3 contracted, but still, it's pretty good Sentinel. Um, Other than that, though, the list itself is pretty solid. Um, Definitely worth considering. I think this could be a high contender. Moving on, we have the more obvious one, the next in line, right? We have Quinnland Tarkentown. This is a list from Woo. It's just the first one that popped up on Hot Decks on Tarkentown Quinnland. The deck's super good, right? Quinlan's already been relevant, and now that its biggest contender, Django, is out of the meta, it could get its time to shine. Um, it's got a bunch of good stuff, right? Nothing really from this list would even need to change. Maybe Commandeer's a lot less necessary now, so maybe that hits the board and you can play other things in its place. But other than that, this list doesn't change at all. Definitely one to look out for. Up next, we have the Sector Qualifier winner from Liverpool, who's on Boss Blue Hard Control. So this deck obviously got no changes, and it was able to win in a Django meta. Granted, I think this deck is kind of teched around Django, even though it's still hard control at the end of the day. You got the 2 shoot downs, got the grenade strikes. You've got 3 no glory only results. I'm not sure if that would stay. I mean, that's pretty steep, but maybe it's still worth it. It's still good removal. Um, don't know about shoot downs. Maybe don't need them anymore. Maybe still. Who knows? It depends how much space meta we see now that Django is out of the picture. Han also, I think this deck gets a good bump in general because Han's not out by any means, but DJ is out. And that was the worst thing about playing hard control was getting put behind on resources. Granted, that's why you're on the 3 champs and Dula in the sideboard. You'll probably still be on them in case you run into Han, but the worst thing was getting your resource stolen, right? Don't got to worry about that anymore. So hard control gets a pretty decent pump from this. I, me personally, I hate this list just because it feels. I don't know. I'm a hard control player, but I also hate it sometimes because it feels super scummy, right? But it is definitely one to watch out for. It's the 11 unit package, right? You could maybe even bump it to 12 if you want to add one of those and drop one of these or something. I don't know. I don't know how the grenade strike did for him. If it was just because of Django or if it was to hit a couple units. So it's definitely worth looking into. But be on the lookout for this. Be prepped for hard control because hard control may find its way in. However, I do think now that Django's out, Sabine gets a lot better again, right? Because that was its absolute worst matchup because it just get blasted by being tapped down all the time. So who knows? Maybe, maybe not. Next up, we got Han Yellow. This is Curtis's list from the recent top 4 in Denver. So the only thing that this list has to change now is the 3 DJ, right? This card's gone. But other than that, I mean, you could still run this entire deck and be fine. Like you could put in this extra Ahsoka. You could put in more Han. There's not even Hans in this deck. That's actually kind of nuts. I think Hans probably make it back into the list if you're on this specific one. I think Han's super good, and I think I'm not going to say we're going to go back to a mostly ground meta, but I mean, all the lists I've shown so far and most of the lists on here are generally ground focused strategies. Django is the only primarily space one, so Han might find its way back into this list. cut these DJs, obviously, extra sparks maybe, Ezra. You could just fill the gaps. But with the DJ ban, sure, Han gets a little weaker, but Han is still a great deck and still can be piloted well enough to win games. So there is that. Next up, we were just talking about it. It's Sabine ECL. This is by Jeddah City. Just the first one that popped up again. Um, so, like I said, the biggest problem with Sabine was Jango being relevant, right? And sort of Han. I mean, Han generally beats this too, but still, it's more skill oriented, I guess, in a sense. But this deck was like unplayable against Jango, right? Like everything you're trying to do is punch him in the face, right? Your red 3 can get pinged out. Your Cassian, sure, it's big enough. Blue leader wasn't that relevant stat wise into him. Dark Saber feels bad, right? Can't do anything. Chewbacca, they can still tap you down. It just struggled immensely into Jango Fett, and considering Jango was so dominant, then this deck basically got put on the back burner. It still had a couple results. I didn't look for them too hard, sadly. I know there was one that performed pretty well, but I think this list can make its way back into the meta now that Jango is gone. So definitely keep an eye out on that. And then we got some honoraries, because these are like I think the top 5 off rip that come to mind. Then we got Gar Yellow. This one was the top 8 from Liverpool. Um, so this deck, I'm not 100% positive, right? Like I think the deck's good. I think it may have thrived more because it had an okay Django matchup with all the shields, right? Like you got a shielded there, shielded. Let's see, you got 6, 9, 7, 10, 12, 14, basically 17, 20, 22 shielded units in your deck. They also could board into the Lurking Ties, the Commandeer, etc., right? And the Asteroid Sanctuary also gives us shields. I forgot to mention that. So 20, whatever the number was. Um, it's definitely worth a deck looking into. It was, I wouldn't say built to counter Django because it's how Gar Saxon's always been built, but it did well into Django because of all the shields not being able to be tapped down. And now that the tap down is less prevalent, I mean, sure, there's going to be Cad and Quinnland and stuff, I think, and they can get rid of your shields, but other decks will not be planning for that. You'll probably see less of them. I think the meta will be a bit more diverse. So this deck could be a sleeper aggro deck. It is very fast. It's one of the fastest decks we've seen. It's not like Kylo, Tarkin Town speed or whatever it was, right? But that deck was very susceptible to interruption. It had to win pretty earlier. It was out of gas. So this deck, while I still think it wants to win fairly early, it still puts down pressure even in later stages of the game just because your units are all shielded. So they have to deal with it in multiple ways or removal or whatever. This deck is, I think, one to watch out for. Definitely keep your eye on that. Maybe give it some test games, see how you feel about it. Last but not least, this is more of a broad category, but I picked this list because I think it's fun. It is Blue Green Hero. I know there was some Luke showcase chasers. Some people like that guy from KTOD got top 8 on Luke Data Vault. Um, I think Blue Green Hero is honestly not as bad as we think it is, or in general, right? Like that's a decent performance. This is a decent performance. You basically like, I mean, you got your playing 60 cards, right? So it's a little strange. And this is the Endless Legions bombo combo. You know, it's got a Relentless, an Annihilator, the Endless Legions, the Starhawk. But even if you're not going for that package for Yoda, I think it's obviously better in Yoda than Luke, this whole package, right? But you're still on like triple redemption. Surprised he's not on home one, to be honest, but maybe that's just because of Starhawk being where you'd want to be in that situation. But generally, I think redemption and home ones are good. Our Quentin's is okay. U-Wing's a good card. Tentative is a shielded sentinel, or not shielded. It's a sentinel in space, gives you another body. You got the Lukes, the Cads for you wings. Those are also optional, I think. But you're my only hopes. Bright Hope Village people for blue green in general are insane. Sentinels. Um, this is basically removal. Um, oh, that was sus. Luke's a good unit. You got a ton of good options in blue green hero that make the archetype as a whole playable. You get access to scanning officers. Surprised to not see Concord Dawn. Maybe I know that's definitely in Luke's because Luke is great, right? With Concord Dawn because you could play it and then give it a shield if you play it on 4, which is super annoying for most decks to deal with. I think Blue Green Hero is in a decent enough spot to consider it, and if you are showcase chasing, then probably build the Luke version. But I think this version is more fun, if you ask me, just because of the whole, fun possible interaction here at the top end. But yeah, that's all I got for this one. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you're going to be playing, what you're going to be testing, what you think's going to be the top dog moving on. I guess we will see. PQ season is about a month away now. So yeah, like I said, let me know what you think. Feel free to just drop a comment. Let me know whatever it may be. Drop a thumbs up on the video if you enjoyed it this time, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace.